Well, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this podcast, sponsored by Synergetics. So I'm Holly Davis, and I have a special guest with us today. We have Mechelle Welch with us from West Point Schools in Mississippi. Hi, Mechelle. How are you?
Hello, nice to join you.
Wonderful. So I am really excited to have you join us today because we're going to talk about your role as an IT administrator for the West Point Schools. And from what I understand, the vision with you guys is that, all students will be successful. And you can't do that without having the right technology in today's world in that classroom, even if you're in a remote environment or if you're in the classroom. So I think the cool thing too today that everybody should know is that you don't have the traditional background in coming up to being an IT administrator and a leader within your schools. Could you give us a little background about that?
I entered education in 94, 95, and I left the medical field. I was a medical technologist for 6 years and left the medical field to become a teacher. And that field prepared me for technology, but I have a science background, so I entered education as a science and technology educator. For 17 years, I was in the classroom. I decided to get my administration license and with an alternate route. That's what the state of Mississippi, if you're an educator, you have the opportunity to do. And when you have your master's, and for that, I got my administration as an alternate route. Well, I started applying for a job. I met a superintendent that needed an IT director, and he hired me to fulfill that and redo their entire school's technology direction. And I came in as from a classroom, so I understood what teachers actually use and what they need and the method of going about designing technology for the classroom. I also knew a little bit about infrastructure due to the background of my prior experiences implementing technology. 1994, 95, we began with, then it's AT&T, it was Bell South. We wired the first buildings for internet. My classroom was the first classroom in the building to actually have dial-up. So for
We've come a long way.
Yes, for 17 years, we ran, I learned and I grew and I just embraced technology. So as a science and technology teacher and as developed administrator leadership skills, technology has been the perfect fit for me. And what's so unique, most people have networking degrees for a director because you're running a network. You're running switches and servers and, managing all types of infrastructure. Well, due to my experience maturing as the technology matured over the years, it just came natural. So I fulfilled this position and been here ever since. This is my 10th year.
Wow.
Administrator.
Yeah.
I've done 2 different districts. Plan for technology. One of them was an Apple direction. They chose Apple. So I designed the technology for Apple and implemented an Apple strategy. And the current one, West Point, we're kind of a multi-OS platform. We have Apple devices, we have Windows devices, and we have Chrome devices. So, it's very important to look at what's going on in the classroom and designing technology. And that's where I've worked with excellent vendors in the state of Mississippi, Synergetics being one of them. They are literally 30 miles from me, have always been there to support me, and I appreciate them very much. They're very professional and they know what they're doing when they're implementing technology.
That's awesome. I really love that you have such a diverse background in coming into this role that you have today. And I think that is something that you bring, that unique approach of thinking about the technology that you need to deploy as looking at it from inside that classroom. What are the needs that teacher has? What do you need to do to really help those students to be successful and to really achieve that goal and that vision that y'all have at West Point Schools? And wow, I mean, you have across the board all the different technologies and OS that you've had to work with, but then also having that background of understanding how you have to, you know, wire the buildings, ensure the right amount of service and that pipe is coming in to make sure that your students have everything that they need so that they can, you know, do that e-learning in the classroom, and supporting your faculty, staff, and students with meeting the goals of even the parents, right? And of your administration that you have to work with. So really, really good that you have that background. You know, there's one other thing that I think that I thought was really cool that you said, and you talked about those relationships with your vendors, because how are you going to accomplish what you need to do, right? If you don't have the right vendors that help you with that. And also understand what you're trying to accomplish and listen, you know? And I think that that's great that you've been able to work with Synergetics for so long. What about the funding mechanisms? Because I know that that's a key element. For a long time, schools, you know, have struggled with very, very small budgets, right? And so you're probably really good at knowing how to stretch the dollar to really make sure y'all can get the, you know, what you need. But we've had a unique environment, right, with the pandemic. So I know y'all have gotten some extra funding there, which has been good. But one of the most critical probably parts of your program or what you have to do is the ERATE program, right? And I'm sure y'all take advantage of using that program to help you accomplish your goals. Is that something you use?
Oh, yes. E-rate is crucial for districts such as our, we're classified as a 90% district through E-rate.
Wow.
That means the federal FCC supplies 90% of our infrastructure funding, and we pay 10%. If we did not have that, we would not be where we are today as far as our infrastructure. And it doesn't matter what classroom technology you implement, if you do not have the infrastructure in place, the classroom technology will not work the way it is meant to work. E-rate, I guess I rebuild my infrastructure with switches and APs about every 5 to 6 years. I use E-rate to do that. We would not be able to do that without them. The demand, when I first implemented 10 years ago, you could put an access point in every other classroom or the hallways to cover the number of devices. Today, we're officially 1-to-1 now. So that could be 25 to 28 devices in that classroom trying to communicate on an access point. And I may have 15 to 20 classrooms in one hallway. So it is very crucial to put those access points in the classroom and get quality access points. Then your devices usually mobile devices last anywhere between 4 to 6 years. And that's stretching it. And so as that goes, you have to align your access points with making sure you're keeping up with what your new devices are going to be able to communicate. So there's a lot of technology design and network design that you have to understand to know what's going on in the classroom, which brings me back to the vendors. If you have to work with dependable vendors through E-rate so that they're keeping up with what's going on and coming, the new, as we say, the new technology, which is just, I can't even think about how fast it has grown since I've been in this field. And they need to know so that I don't have to constantly research what's coming out, what's going on because of my time constraint and my staffing. And so I depend on my vendors to bring to me the best, the newest, and the quickest that will help with our classroom infrastructure.
Yeah, and that is so critical because You're right. A lot of times you're stretched on your IT staff and your ability for y'all to be able to, kind of like watchdogging all the stuff that's coming out and everything that is new. Even like with the pandemic, right? We had a lot of challenges where people were like, what? We have all this funding through ESSER and ESSER 1, 2, 3, right? All the different kind of programs that came out for technology. So you're right. It's critical to have a really good vendor that you can work with, that understands those programs, understands the ERATE program, which is very important for what you do, and kind of helping you to not have to teach someone that program, right? It's good if someone already knows it and they've been involved with it for years. So I think it's great that you have that relationship with Synergetics, and I think West Point's been working with them for like 20 years. So it's a long-term relationship, and that's really good. That speaks volumes for even for y'all and how y'all been able to work really well together. No play on words there, like Synergetics, right? So anyway, well, you know what? We're coming to the end of our podcast here today. And Mechelle, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything you'd like to add, or with that, we can close out, but I'd love to see if there's anything you'd like to tell everybody.
Well, just, as finding dependable service and trying to get the largest problem we're having now is actually getting our hands on devices, upgrading. The ship rate is 6 to 8 months out. So we're working on a time frame now. So you're looking at, yes, we go out looking for devices, but you're liable not to get them for 6 to 8. So just actually a technology director has to, this day and time, have a vision 6 to 8 months out, because you've got to know what you need 6 to 8 months out to pray that you get it by then. So it has, this pandemic has put, it's a good thing that's happened and a bad thing. Bad thing is a pandemic. A good thing, most of the schools, I can speak for the state of Mississippi, our kids have finally gotten a device. The state of Mississippi was able to afford to implement a one-to-one environment. And the MDE, Mississippi Department of Education, worked to help purchase and use the money wisely to get the devices into the kids. The other problem we had was connectivity. And you send a child home in the country where we have land, farms, they don't have any internet. Well, you think, oh, well, let's send them a hotspot. Well, you've got to find the vendor that has a hotspot that will work in the country. And that's the biggest problem we have in the state of Mississippi right now, that we're working to improve. The Electric Power Association are now running fiber to the homes where no one would help. So that is a big undertaking now, is getting fiber to the homes, but hotspots are the best we can for the ones that have access to a tower. So connectivity has been a struggle. But to close out, for me, this field is absolutely rewarding. I have enjoyed it. I appreciate my vendors that I work with, Synergetics and the others in the state of Mississippi. I have several vendors I work with, and just surviving and knowing that this is coming to an end and we're technologically advanced now. So we're ready to move on to that time, that curriculum, to that technology is amazing. And I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Well, we loved having you here today. And you just have a wealth of knowledge, and I'd love to have you back again on one of our podcasts. But with that, I'm say thank you. I hope you have a fabulous week, and everybody out there that's listening. I want to thank Synergetics for sponsoring us today, and they're leading the network and technology industry with very innovative solutions, such as working with schools like you at West Point. So Mechelle Welch, thank you very much for joining us. And I'm Holly Davis signing off from Complement Consulting. Thank you. Bye-bye.